And hey, if you're watching on YouTube, welcome to the lobby. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button and smash that bell so you never miss a drop. Brand new episodes each and every Monday and Thursday. The 90s weren't that long ago, but the way we talk about them now, you'd kind of think we survived some ancient, forgotten civilization. Like we're going to be sitting around one day telling our grandkids, back in my day, if you wanted to talk to your friend, you had to call their house. And not just call, oh no, you had to be ready for a full-on social interaction with a grown adult you did not schedule. Hello? Hi, Mrs. Johnson. This is Nate, Timmy's friend from school. Immediate anxiety. And she's just sitting there like, okay. And you're like, is Timmy home? And if she said, he's busy, that was it. There was no follow-up, no text me when you're free, no, well, what's he doing? Tim just got removed from existence, gone, into the void. And you had to just sit there like, all right, guess I'll just go ride my bike. And somehow you'd go outside with no phone, no plan, and no GPS, and still find your friends. How? Explain that mechanic to me, seriously. Because now I can text someone, call them, FaceTime them, send them a meme, tag them in something on social media, and still not hear back for 6 hours. And I know they saw it, because it says read. Don't lie to me. And that's when it hits you. It's not just that things have changed, it's that we grew up in a completely different version of reality. Hey, and welcome to, or welcome back to, the Average Joe Nerdcast. I'm Nate, your resident Average Joe, professional nostalgia merchant, and a man who still thinks the Scholastic Book Fair was a financial decision-making test for all children. Like you walked in with $10 and had to decide between a cool new book or a holographic pencil you would absolutely lose in just 48 hours. Character-defining moment for sure. And today, we're talking about something I came across recently that hit me way harder than I ever expected. It's called 90's Kid Syndrome. I heard it on a psychology podcast, gave it a listen, and about halfway through I was like, oh man, this is about me. Because apparently people born roughly between like 1990 and 2000 who grew up in that weird early 2000s window, we all share this thing where we are aggressively nostalgic and also just a wee bit confused about how we got here. And I was like, yes, this all tracks. So we're going to break it down, talk about why we feel this way, roast ourselves just a little bit, and roast our parents a lot. And we're going to try to figure out why being a 90s kid feels like you're living between two very different worlds. Because nostalgia is the obvious part, right? We love our era. We think our cartoons were better. Our games were better. Our music was infinitely better. And listen, objectively, we're right. I will not be taking questions at this time. No, sir. But seriously, though, every generation says that, right? So why does it feel different for us 90s kids? I think a part of it is what that era actually was. You see, those of us who grew up in the 90s, we grew up in a time where things were limited, shared, and you actually had to wait for stuff. Like if your show came on at 7, you were there waiting at 6:55. No pausing, no rewinding, no, I'll catch it later. If you missed it, that was a life lesson. And don't even get me started on Blockbuster Video. That was a high-stakes environment. You walk in on a Friday night, the movie you wanted, gone. Just gone. Now you're standing there like, well, I guess I'm watching Air Bud again. And convincing yourself this is fine. Air Bud is a good movie. And I mean, for the time, it was. Even if the sequels kind of got bad. But you watched them anyway. And somehow, all of that made it so much more memorable. Because you didn't have 10,000 other options. You had that. And that's the part that's hard to explain to people nowadays. Because now everything is available all the time. Which sounds great until your brain goes, cool, so why does nothing feel special anymore? And real quick, can we talk about parenting for a second? Because 90s parents, different breed entirely. 90s parents were like, go outside. That was the plan. That was the entire parenting strategy. There was no supervision, no itinerary, no hydration schedule, just be home before the streetlights come on, or don't come home at all. That was the vibe. Modern parents? Tracking apps, check-ins, scheduled activities. Kids have got calendars now. I didn't even know what day it was half the time. You ever ask your mom what time it was and she hit you with, I don't know, go look at the microwave? That was the system. Nowadays, kids got smartwatches telling them their heart rate and emotional state. I didn't even know I had emotions until like '08. And now, a quick word from one of our sponsors. Today's episode of the Average Joe Nerdcast is brought to you by Blockbuster Plus. Tired of having unlimited access to everything you want? Do you hate convenience? Miss having disappointment in your life? With Blockbuster Plus, you can browse thousands of movies that are already rented out. That's right, you don't get to watch them. You just stand there, staring at the empty case, wondering what could have been. Blockbuster Plus, because scarcity builds character. Back to the show. But you know, that's kind of the thread through all of this. We grew up with limitations, and those limitations kind of shaped how we experience things. Because now there's no waiting. You want something, you get it immediately. And that sounds well and good, until real life doesn't work that way. Because real life is still slow, unpredictable, and kind of messy. And your brain is sitting there like, why isn't this loading faster? And I think that's where this whole 90s kids syndrome thing starts to hit much deeper. Because it's not just, man, I miss my cartoons. It's, I was built in one version of the world, and now I'm trying to function in a completely different one. And there's a little bit of friction there. And that friction, that's where all of this weird nostalgia, anxiety, comparison, and confusion starts to mix together. And that friction, that's where things start to feel just a little off. Not necessarily broken, not like your life is falling apart, just off. Like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, but it doesn't feel the way you thought it would. Because I think a lot of us had this very clear idea of adulthood in our heads, not even consciously, just kind of absorbed it growing up. You work hard, you figure things out, you get to this point where things just feel stable. But nowadays, you hit that age and you're like, wait a minute, where's the part where everything chills the fuck out? Because it feels like the exact opposite. Everything speeds up, bills, responsibilities, decisions. And somehow you're expected to just handle it, while also being emotionally aware, financially responsible, physically healthy, mentally stable, all at the same exact time. And I don't know about you all, but I still feel like I'm figuring out how to properly load a dishwasher. Player 2, don't add to that. She knows what I'm referring to. Anyways, there's levels to adulthood I just did not unlock yet. No one prepared us for how weird adulthood actually is. As a kid, you think adults have it all figured out. Then you become one and realize everyone is just guessing with confidence. Like, yeah, I pay bills. But I also stood in my kitchen the other day staring at absolutely nothing for like 10 minutes thinking, wait a minute, what was I about to do? That's not a stable system. That's kind of a glitch. But seriously, though, there's this thought that creeps in sometimes. I did everything right, so why does this feel this hard? And it's not entitlement. It's confusion. Because we were given the formula. Go to school, get a job, work hard, and things will just work out. And now it's like go to school, get a job, work hard, and then open your banking app like, okay, but where did all my money go? Immediately gone. Like your paycheck spawns in and just gets deleted. No cutscene. This episode of the Average Joe Nerdcast is also brought to you by Dial-Up Premium. Are you tired of your internet being fast, reliable, and efficient? Well, good news! We're bringing back the full experience. With Dial-Up Premium, every time you log on, you'll hear that beautiful, soul-crushing symphony of and during that time, you'll sit there in silence, thinking about your life choices and your future. Dial-Up Premium, because patience used to be mandatory. Hey, quick pause for my audio listeners over on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're enjoying the show, then do me a favor and follow it so brand new episodes land automatically in your feed. And if you've got a moment, please leave a 5-star rating and review. It genuinely helps independent podcasts survive. That's it. Back to it. But that's actually kind of the point. We were trained in an environment where things took time, things had limits, things didn't happen instantly. And now we live in a world where everything is immediate, constant, and always demanding your attention. And your brain is just kind of sitting there like, I don't think this is how this was supposed to go. Because you've got one part of you that adapted. You can use the technology, you can navigate the world, you can keep up. But then there's another part of you that still expects things to feel simpler, slower, more contained. And when it doesn't feel that way, you don't always know why. You just feel it. And social media definitely didn't help that. Because now you're not just living your life, you're watching everyone else live theirs too. Constantly. And not even their real life. Just their best life. Their highlight reel. You ever be having a perfectly fine day, then you open your phone and suddenly you're like, damn, should I be doing more? Like, dude, you were just enjoying your sandwich. Now you're questioning your entire life trajectory because someone your age just bought a house, started a business, ran a marathon, and somehow also looks like they haven't eaten carbs since 2007. Meanwhile, I'm over here like, hey, I drank water today, so that's a win. And that constant comparison, it adds this layer of pressure that we didn't grow up with. Because back then, your world was smaller. You compared yourself to your friends, or people at school, or maybe someone on TV, and that was it. Nowadays, you're comparing yourself to the entire internet, all the time. And even if you know it's curated, your brain still reacts to it. So now you've got this weird situation where logically you're like, yeah, I know this isn't real. Emotionally, you're like, but what if I'm just behind? And that's where this whole thing starts stacking up. It's not one big issue, it's a bunch of smaller things that just layer on top of each other over time. The nostalgia, the comparisons, the expectations, the pace of literally everything. And it creates this feeling where you're like, I'm here, I'm functioning, but something feels off. And I think this is where nostalgia kind of stops being just fun. Because, yes, absolutely, on the surface, it's, man, I miss cartoons, I miss riding bikes, I miss not having responsibilities. But if you sit with it for just a second, it's so much deeper than that. It's more like, I just miss how things felt. And that is so much harder to explain, because it's not tied to just one thing. It's not just a show or a game or a song. It's the environment those things existed in. It was slower, quieter, more contained. Like when you were in a moment, you were actually in it. Not half in it, half checking your phone, not thinking about posting it, not comparing it to something else. You were just there. And I think that's what we're really chasing when we get nostalgic. Not the thing itself, but the feeling of being fully present in it. And here's where it gets just a little uncomfortable, because when something doesn't exist anymore and you can't go back to it, that's not just nostalgia. That's a little bit of grief. Not heavy grief, not like loss, but like, man, that version of life is gone and it's never coming back. And you don't really notice it until you do. Like one day you're just sitting there and it just hits you. Nobody's knocking on your door asking if you can come outside. You don't have a summer break anymore. There's no built-in pause in life. It just keeps marching on. And you're expected to keep going with it. And again, it's not necessarily bad. It's just different. And summer break as a kid? Dude, elite. Top-tier human experience. You had freedom, no responsibilities, and unlimited time. Nowadays, you get PTO. And you gotta request it, justify it, and schedule it 3 months in advance. And even when you take it, you're still thinking about work. That's not a break. That's a field trip. And I think that's why people our age hold on to that era so tightly. Because it represents the last time life truly felt simple, predictable, and kind of safe. Not because nothing bad ever happened, but because the pace was manageable. You weren't constantly being hit with news, opinions, comparisons, notifications, all at the same exact time. Nowadays, you wake up and immediately get hit with the entire world before you've even had your coffee. And that's insane, right? No human brain was ever built for that. This episode of the Average Joe Nerdcast is brought to you by the Scholastic Book Fair credit card. Remember walking into the book fair with just $10 and unlimited dreams? Well, now imagine you didn't have to choose. With 29.9% APR and absolutely no financial literacy, you too can walk out with 3 Goosebump books, 2 erasers shaped like pizza, and a poster you will never put up on that wall. The Scholastic Book Fair credit card, because impulse control was never your strong suit. But at the same time, you look at kids growing up nowadays and it's like they are dealing with a completely different reality. Like, yeah, we absolutely had pressure in the 90s, but it was so much smaller. It was contained. They've got pressure from literally everywhere at all the same time. And I think that's where a lot of people get it twisted. They look at younger generations and go, man, they've got it easy. But do they though? Because yeah, they've got better tech, more access, more information, but they've also got more visibility, more comparison, more pressure to figure themselves out publicly at a way younger age. And that's not nothing. I mean, seriously, let's be honest. We would not have survived being teenagers in this era. Absolutely not. We were already overthinking aim away messages, vague Facebook statuses, and song lyrics in our bios. Now imagine comments, likes, shares, full-on public opinions about you. At 14, I would have logged off permanently. Like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'll just go live in the fucking woods. And when you zoom out and look at all of this, it's not really about 90s good, nowadays bad. Because that's just too damn simple. It's more like we were built in one environment, and now we're living in another one that's moving way faster, way louder, and way more connected than anything we were prepared for. And we adapted. But that doesn't mean it feels natural. And when you really sit down with all of this, it kind of reframes the entire thing. Because it's so easy to reduce it down to the 90s were just better. But that's not really it, is it? It's not that everything back then was better. It's that everything back then felt manageable. Like life had edges, boundaries. You had a place to be, a time to be there, and when it was over, you were done. Now, Everything overlaps. Work follows you home. The internet follows you literally everywhere. Your attention is always being pulled in like 18 different directions. And yeah, we've adapted. We've figured it out. But I think a lot of us are still low-key trying to recreate that feeling of being in one place at one time, fully. And maybe that's what 90s kid syndrome really is. Not just nostalgia, not just missing the past, but having experienced a version of life where things were slower, things were quieter, and your world wasn't constantly competing for your attention. And now trying to hold on to pieces of that while still living in the world as it is. Because you can't go back. That's not how this works. But you also don't have to completely lose what made that time so special. And I think that right there, that's the balance. Not rejecting where we are now, but not letting it completely overwrite who we were back then. And honestly, maybe the adult version of go outside is just putting your phone down for just 20 minutes and sitting there like, what do I even do now? Just raw dogging reality. No music, no scrolling, no distractions, just you and your thoughts like, shit, this is uncomfortable. That right there, that's growth. I think it is. I don't know. This episode of the Average Joe Nerdcast is brought to you by Life 1.0 Limited Mode. Are you tired of unlimited access, constant updates, and emotional buffering? With Life 1.0, you get scheduled entertainment, limited communication, and absolutely zero notifications. Side effects may include boredom, imagination, and forming real memories. Life 1.0, because not everything needs to be optimized. And look, if you're listening to this and you're like, dude, that's exactly how I feel. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're just someone who grew up in one version of the world and had to adapt to another. And that's not nothing. That takes a level of flexibility and awareness that a lot of people just don't even realize. So yeah, we might be just a little nostalgic. We might even overthink things a bit. We might still be figuring it all out. But honestly, I think all of us 90s kids, we're doing all right. And that's it. If you made it this far, seriously, I appreciate you. This one was a little more reflective, a little more just sit with it. But sometimes we got to slow it down and actually talk about what's going on under the surface. So with that, shout out time. Shout out to my player 2. Thank you for still holding it down while I overanalyze literally entire generations for one episode of a podcast. And shout out to my brother Ian, who would confidently agree with me. Yes, the 90s were better. And shout out to each and every one of you listening right now, especially everyone over in the lobby. And if you're not over there yet, then please come join Average Joe Nerdcast, the lobby over on Facebook. We've got Side Quest Sundays, wild discussions, and a whole bunch of 90s kids just trying to make sense of all of this together. I'll drop the link to the page in the show notes, or you can head straight over to Facebook and just type in Average Joe Nerdcast, the lobby, and you will find the page. And if this episode hit for you, then please do me a favor. Drop a rating on Apple or Spotify, and then follow the show. It helps more people find the show, and it helps us keep building this thing the right way. As always, stay gold, nerd bold, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Game over.
Actually, hold on. Before I get out of here, there's one more thing that's been sitting in the back of my head this entire episode. Because we've been talking a lot about how we don't fully fit into the world we grew up in anymore. But we also don't fully fit into the world now. And I think that's the weirdest part of all of this. We're like the in-between generation. We remember life before the internet took over, but we're also fully living in the internet age. We remember when phones were just phones, computers were in one room, and the internet was something you went to. Now it's just everywhere. And we're stuck in this spot where we can function in both worlds, but neither one feels like home all the time. Older generations look at us like, y'all are glued to your phones. And younger generations look at us like, why are you so weird about technology? And we're just sitting here like, I don't know, man, I've just seen too much. Like, we remember when the internet was fun. Now it's like, I should probably get off this app. We don't trust technology the same way younger generations do. Like, if something glitches, I'm immediately suspicious. Why did my phone just freeze? Who's watching me? I know it's you, Greg. Meanwhile, kids now are like, yeah, it just lagged for a second. No, that's not normal. Something's wrong. But honestly, I think being in between might actually be a good thing, because we've seen both sides. We know what life feels like with constant connection and without it. We know what it feels like to be present and be distracted. And that gives us a clear choice. Not a very easy one, but a very real one. We can decide when to unplug. We can decide when to slow things down, and we can decide what actually matters to us, instead of just letting the world decide it for us. And maybe that's the real takeaway here. Not that we're stuck between two worlds, but that we get to choose how much of each one we carry forward. Because we might be 90s kids, but we're not stuck back there. We just remember something worth holding on to.